It's a show that will be prop-free again today.
Who can guarantee
Please.
that?
There's no way.
Who can guarantee
There's something coming out of his arm. I can see it.
There's
His
nothing.
arm right
There's
behind.
nothing.
There's something.
There's
I saw
nothing.
something in the rundown where
There's nothing.
One of the questions is, can Jared Goff go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen?
I don't
and
say
as soon as
anything
he
about
said it in the
Jared
meeting,
Goff's
we're like,
feet.
we know what you're trying to do.
I don't
know
say
it.
anything about. Listen, it's a different sports show that has a guy on it that's into feet. That ain't me, buddy. I leave that alone.
Oh, wow.
I leave that alone.
But we're starting with somewhat breaking news. We're debating whether or not to put a breaking news banner on there, but it's not all done yet. Another GOAT in North Carolina, perhaps. Adam Smith of Inside Carolina writing, in a stunning development that has progressed from implausible to an actuality, North Carolina is finalizing a contract to land Bill Belichick as its next football coach. But hold on, ESPN reporting that there are still issues that need to be worked out, with sources telling Pete Thamel that, quote, the ball is in Belichick's court. So what is your reaction to all this?
Well, so here's what I think is definitively true. That Belichick said, if you agree to this list of demands, I'm going to be your next head coach. And North Carolina, it seems, has come back and been like, well, we agree to this list, and can we work on these things? But what everyone is in agreement on in the reporting, and I think this is getting done maybe by the end of the show and almost surely by the end of the week, is that Bill Belichick is ready, willing, and able to forego ever coaching in the NFL again.
It's shocking.
And that is less than 11 months ago. A major topic on this show and others was, should teams, playoff, double-digit win playoff teams such as Dallas, Philadelphia, or Buffalo fire their coach just so they can be the ones to hire Bill Belichick? About a month at right, we all discussed it. And by the way, myself, I think a lot of us were like, Philly should do it. That Dallas should do it. Buffalo, if they had Buffalo was under consideration.
And Jeffrey Lurie flirted with
the idea himself. And then a month later, when the hiring cycle really gets going, he gets one interview, doesn't get that job, and it would appear to me he is so concerned that would repeat itself this cycle that he just wants to take the first available chair he has, even if it's the second best men's sports program at the college. Which is, and I understand his dad coached there, and I get it, and it's gorgeous campus. I get all that. But that's stunning. And it does, I'm going to add one other thing, Brew. It does make me wonder how much Robert Kraft really spoiled the well for Belichick when it comes to other owners and those owners' meetings. And we know that he had a couple conversations with the people in Atlanta, and it is and I know how respected Kraft is amongst the owners. And it is, if Belichick is this convinced no one will hire him, not even, by the way, Tom Brady might need a coach here in a few months. He doesn't think Brady's going to hire him. That one I understand. I do wonder how much behind the scenes Kraft let everyone know from his perspective what a nightmare the end with Belichick was, and now he thinks, I have to go to college. And that's stunning.
Well, my first thought is, God bless him. This dude just loves coaching. I mean, seriously, he just wants to coach. And if that's how he feels about it, then God bless him. I'm not going to rip him for that. Sure. All right, more power to him. I would certainly feel better if it was in Alabama, a Michigan, Ohio State, even a Notre Dame, like a blue blood. For him to go to North Carolina does feel funky. However, look at the top 4 seeds in the college football playoff. All right, Oregon, well, of the 4, you got Georgia. They're the only blue blood. Oregon, Boise State, Arizona State.
And by the way, I don't know that Georgia was really considered a blue blood until recently.
Right, recently, last 10 years or whatever. And they got some history.
Sure.
But then you got Tennessee, which probably was similar to Georgia. SMU, Indiana, they're all in the field. So he thinks, and with good reason, that he can go to UNC and make them a powerhouse. And I think for North Carolina, they are looking at it, as you said, they're a basketball blue blood. But college basketball isn't what it used to be. Nobody pays attention until the tournament, and even that isn't quite as big as it used to be outside of the gambling and stuff. And so if they're looking at it and saying football, college football is the place to be, let's bring in the GOAT of all coaches and see what he can do for us. And finally, Nick, I'll say this, and I think we may get to some of this. Big mistake by the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. This is the guy for them. I don't know that he'd go there and win a Super Bowl, but I think their best chance, I've talked about Deion, but that doesn't seem a possibility. They should be going after Bill Belichick. The defense we know he would work wonders with. And I think if they knew, those players knew Bill Belichick was coming in there, every one of them is at attention now. He talks to Micah Parsons about, you could be my Lawrence Taylor. You don't think Micah's going to be excited about that? Dak is good enough. Dak is good enough. We've seen him struggle in the playoffs, but he's good enough, I think, to win a Super Bowl if you got a great defense and some other good play. I just think, I understand why Jerry didn't do it, knowing what Jerry's like. He wants all the attention. But this was the move for the Cowboys, and it looks like they've squandered it.
Okay, so we're not across the finish line yet. I'm not ruling out that it falls apart, and that Belichick in his entire career has been about leverage for the players that he's coached. And they're like, hey, go out, see what's out there, and come back to me. There's a part of it where he's sitting here, and maybe it's with the Giants, maybe it's with Jerry, maybe it's with Chicago. I don't think it's with Chicago.
The Jets.
But just the idea. No, the Jets are.
I mean.
No, not only do I dislike the Jets, I know Belichick despises the Jets. A part of it's like, you know what? I'm going to go out and get some leverage. Optimistically, you call it leverage. Pessimistically, maybe you call it a safety net. But the idea that he's had this big change and just like, you know what?
See, I don't think
college football is in a not a vulnerable place, but a place where I can go in and dominate. So part of me thinks this is an NFL leverage play, and some of those NFL
I can see that. I can see that.
Just go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Here's why I don't think it's that. You don't make a 400-page organizational Bible in a long weekend.
I'm not sure. Most people don't, but I'm sure
I mean, I don't know how closely you've been following Bill's litany of media appearances. I don't think his prep for those are taking up his whole day.
Thank you.
And
finally someone says it. Hey, can I show you something from 1983? I guess
listen, and I think he could, if he threw himself fully into that job, would have been great at it. I don't think he did, and I don't think it was just weekends with the person he's dating now. I think he has been working on a project. And I think that maybe the last go-round was shocking. Scarring is too strong, but shocking to him. Like, wait, a quarter of the league had openings. One interviewed me and chose Raheem Morris. That's it? You chose a different defensive-minded coach who had, not a first-time head coach. Like, that's what happened. And you mentioned, when you were talking about how North Carolina, what he could build it into, I do wonder how much, oddly, him seeing what Deion did at Colorado made it be like, oh, you can build it anywhere. Colorado was the worst Division I team.
That's right.
They weren't a 6-win team who 2 years prior had Drake May playing for. Like, North Carolina
revamped the whole team roster in a year.
Right, exactly. A year or two, depending on how you look at it. But North Carolina is not, obviously, a historically great football program. But they're not in the dregs. Mac Brown went there. He had coached Texas. So I do wonder if it does feel like in the NIL era and in the transfer portal era that it is less about, obviously some places are going to have structural advantages and the other places you are what you build it to. I just think he really doesn't believe he's getting another NFL head coaching job. So I don't think this is a leverage. I don't think you might do the first meeting via Zoom for leverage. You don't then have a 5-hour meeting with the power brokers in Manhattan and then give them, I just don't think it's a leverage thing. I think he wants the job.
All right, let's talk about Belichick's legacy. If he does do this, 8 total Super Bowl rings. We thought he was dead set on chasing down Shula's record. He's behind by either 26 wins or 14 if you count playoff wins. That record seems uncatchable for him. It will probably be Andy Reid's eventually. So, Nick, how does this move to UNC, if it were to happen, affect his legacy?
I don't think he's going to just be referred to as if it's part of his name as the greatest coach of all time for that much longer. I think it's going to become more of a fuzzy debate because of what Andy's doing. And I know you say 8 Super Bowl rings, and I know he claims 8 Super Bowl rings. I do not think to the general public they tack on your coordinator rings. You're right if it's like, hey, show me all your rings.
And you don't.
But
I said 8 rings.
No, I know.
He's got 6.
No.
Literally has 8.
No, so again, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that debate, but I also don't want these graphics I'm about to show the audience to be confused. Like he said 8, you're showing 6. It's the discussion when we call him the GOAT, it's head coach. So I'm going to look at the head coaching resume as opposed to football life or whatever it is. And there are what Andy has going for him is we can show you their resumes, and I think people will be shocked at how close. So regular season wins, he's 32 behind. That's done in less than 3 years. Playoff wins, he's 26 behind. I think that's done in the next 2 or 3 years, but it's going to get done. Total wins, that's done in the next 3 or 4 years. Playoff appearances, already passed him. Conference championship game appearances, he'll be 1 behind here in about 4 weeks. Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl wins, we'll see, but then there is this piece of it, which is the three-peat chances, which is an unprecedented thing. Shula would have an unprecedented thing, undefeated season. Andy would have an unprecedented thing, three-peat, and Belichick would have the most, but for now, and we'll see. The other piece of it is there is no, and we can go to the next graphic, blemish for Andy. If these two guys both coached a bunch of games without the 2 greatest quarterbacks any of us have ever seen. Andy won 60% of those games. Bill won 45% of those games. Andy had 3 losing seasons. Bill had 8 losing seasons.
Don McNabb and Michael Vick are not.
Drew Bledsoe and Bernie Kosar weren't. And by the way, Donovan McNabb versus
McNabb was a good quarterback.
No, that's
he
his
went
point.
to the Super Bowl.
No, that's his point. His point is that that Belichick never had that level of quarterback. But I don't know if we can put that back up there. It's not a small sample, and it is the 8 losing seasons in a fewer number of career seasons without those guys. All that stuff's noteworthy. I
don't think anyone cares at all about that 1 iota.
So you don't hold on. So you think Chris Broussard's the only person who says what has Belichick done without Tom Brady?
I think that is fair.
Well, that's what that is.
No, you're saying no. Losing seasons. No one in any bar on God's green earth is like, well, when you look at losing seasons, no one cares.
No,
it is 6 Super Bowl rings to the most optimistic, end of this season to 4. Sorry, 6-4. I will do. 6-4 is still a massive
I didn't say it's
gap.
going to stop. I didn't say he's not going to be considered the GOAT in 2 months. I said for much longer. I think that
So you need 3 Super Bowls.
So
you need 6 rings, and head-to-head, Andy Reid lost in a Super Bowl.
So I know that is how you're looking at it. That period, point blank. I don't think that it is going to be a universally held opinion because Andy has a resume that says I couldn't only have any level of success with the greatest player ever. And Bill doesn't have that. That's why this last stop was going to be important for him, and we all talked about it.
I think right now there's a nice gap between him and Andy Reid. Like, I don't think very many people are thinking Andy Reid is right there with Belichick right now.
I agree with that.
And it's argued, like, does he need 6? If he gets 5 and a three-peat, then it becomes a real argument. But I'm with you. Yeah. Most people are just going to care about the Super Bowls. That's what's going to define it. And as far as his legacy, honestly, look, maybe you think I'm crazy. I don't really think Belichick cares that much about his legacy.
He seemed to care about that wins record a lot.
Did he?
Yeah.
How do we know that? We talked a lot about it.
There was a lot of reporting about that.
His legacy's set. with the 6 championships. If he cared that much about his legacy, why in the world is he going to North Carolina?
Because he might not have any other job.
Okay, so rest on your laurels. I mean, seriously, you don't need this. This is going to do nothing. Look, if he struggles at North Carolina, and I said yesterday he would, I'm going to open it up. He might do well. But if he struggles there, then it really is a knock because you already have what I said. He hadn't done a thing without Tom Brady. And he didn't have McNabb and Vic. But he had Drew Bledsoe, who was good his first year in New England. Yeah. And he had, like you said, Bernie Kosar, Vinny Testaverde. But my point is, if he struggles at North Carolina, now you have another even bigger stain on your legacy. And I do think that puts some doubt in people's mind about him being the GOAT.
I'll meet you in the middle on, it's a little bit how people, I forgot what podcast I was listening to. They talked about when Jordan came in when they were doing like the all NBA 75.
Oh, yeah.
And when Jordan came in, it was like the C's party.
Right.
Which is a big GOAT argument.
Yeah.
I mean, that really, when everybody was like.
I think he cares about his legacy amongst who he considers football people. Okay. And I don't know if among real football people, not that we're not real football people, but people who have had their, hands in the dirt. No one comes up to me like, yeah, but you didn't do it without Brady. Like, I don't think anyone has that.
Well, in an hour and a half, ask Coach. Because I think Coach is as real of a football person as it gets. And I think Coach's money right now is that Andy Reid's going to finish as the greatest coach ever. So, I'm not, I am very confident. Not because I've talked to Bill, but because the people who haven't written books about him were the ones for years, like starting 4 years ago, circling Shula's record and saying Shula, I don't even remember what it was, but like had some public comments disrespecting Belichick, maybe about Spygate, and I didn't even bring that part up.
And
the other piece is the NFL
blemish.
Twice docking his team draft picks. Again,
That's the blemish, though. Really.
Well, that is you don't. So can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you think that you seem very confident, or not you believe he has 8 rings, the cheating didn't matter, and nobody cares about anything, that all of the success came with Brady. Do you think that is the majority, minority, or somewhere in the middle opinion? Because I think it is. I think your laissez-faire stuff of the cheating and he gets the giant Super Bowl rings count, and that all of his success happened with Brady, that nobody thinks of that when we're talking about the greatest coaches. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe you're in the minority.
I mean, I don't mean to be flippant, but I don't necessarily care. I think that I'm right about that.
Right, but
would you agree, though, that it is going to come down to Super Bowls? And again, Reid doesn't have to have more. But that's mainly what people are going to be looking at. And when it gets close, then these other
that's
things,
what I'm saying.
You nitpick, and that's
what I'm saying is in 4 years, if 3 more seasons from now, so you have this playoff run, if Andy at that point has a three-peat, which right now the Chiefs are the second favorite to do, and has won one of the next 3 Super Bowls, and if in 4 years Andy has more wins, more playoff victories, 5 Super Bowls, and a three-peat, I do not think it'll just be if someone says, hey, who's the GOAT head coach family feud? Right now, if you say, who's the GOAT head coach family feud style, you get 97 Bill Belichicks. Yeah. And I'm saying I think that would drastically change.
I agree with that.
Just to end it on a positive Belichick note, if he succeeds, and it's like a Coach Prime plus, where Coach Prime, Dion, I'll refer to him as it, Dion had a Hall of Fame career, became Coach Prime, and his legacy, he's almost as famous or more famous. He's on commercials, and it increased his legacy, and it's still going up. If Bill Belichick, both personally and professionally, can make this work, I had Hubs pull these pictures where his dad coached at North Carolina when he was a boy, and this is the picture of him at Kenan Stadium when his father was coaching. And the player who sort of made him who he is, Lawrence Taylor, went to North Carolina, so there's a little bit of that. And part of his contract is he wants to bring his sons along. Part of me thinks, this could, if I'm him, I'm like, you know what? This could be a triple win for me. It's a shout out to an emotional bond that maybe wasn't always the strongest with my kids. It's a connection to my father. It's a connection to Lawrence Taylor, which is, of all the guys he talks about Brady and Lawrence Taylor, and really probably Lawrence Taylor.
And honestly, he might talk about Ed Reed more than Brady.
Yeah.
He loves Lawrence Taylor.
So if it can all kind of collide there into some sort of success,
I totally agree with that.
That could be good for him.
That is a first cousin of my everything you do counts for good or for bad, which is why I don't disregard the years post Brady. I don't, you know what I mean? It's all part of your coaching career. Now, it's weird because we are talking an NFL head coach and this would be in college, but I agree. There is massive upside if he succeeds. And an upside
succeeding being getting them into the college football playoff.
Or a good bowl game.
Times.
Yeah. Look, has Deion succeeded? He's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, but this Colorado was worse than North Carolina.
But I mean, I think that
they got to be in the playoff to me.
So I don't. Sure, I don't know to be honest, how the playoff is gonna the permutations of the playoff, because I don't think the current playoff format's gonna be the way it's done. Maybe even as soon as next year and things like that. But I agree with the general sentiment, which is if he has unambiguous success at North Carolina, it doesn't have to win a national championship, but they are in the contention for their conference, in the contention for the playoff. It certainly helps him. There's no question it helps him. Right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.